Hi guys, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Google Ad Extensions, why you should be using them, and how they can increase your ROI. Now, why use Google Ads Extensions in the first place? So the main reason is they can improve your performance of your search ads at no additional cost. It means you can take up more real estate, talk more about your products and your offerings, and save that crucial ad copy to get an increased CTR and conversion. Before I take you over to my screen, just pay attention to all the cards that are above in this video. I go into depth on each one of these ad extensions in separate videos, so keep a lookout for those. Here we are at our Google Ads test account for our Shopify test store, .net. Yesterday I created a brand campaign, and today we're looking at Google Ads extensions. I'll explain each one and see which ones we could possibly apply to our branded campaign or our overall account. Okay, so the first place to go to find your Google Ad extensions is under Assets here, and select Assets. And you see when you come to this screen here right now, we don't have any ad extensions at all, and that's fine. But there's two ways you can use your ad extensions across your account. You can use it as a top level, so it applies to every single campaign across your account where it's eligible, or you can associate it with different campaigns because you may want to show some ad extensions with some campaigns or ad groups and maybe not with others. Something to just keep note of when creating ad extensions in general. From here, to create an ad extension, you need to come to the blue plus button to create an asset. So we'll click that. You can see a pop-up with all the different extensions that you can use. As of today's date, March 11, 2024, we have 13 different options that we can use. So let's start with the top, business name. Adding a business name states it should match your URL or your advertiser's name, which for us is Sensei Enterprises Limited because it's my company name, but that's not the case for this particular account. It's about cheap camping gear and buying that online. So I would write cheap camping gear or cheap.net as the overall domain. So it can be used across any different of my search campaigns as a headline. Now, Google does state your business name may not serve, even if it's approved. Google may only show this as a placeholder name for quality related reasons. And as we can see here, just for a quick example, I've added cheap camping gear and we can see it pops up above the actual headlines here. So as a quick demonstration, I've added in cheap camping gear. No need to put in cheapcampinggear.net because your domain name will show up anyway, and you can add it to a brand or you can add it to the account. So since I've got this set up, I'm just going to save it. On to the next asset, you can add in a business logo. You can add your logo to the account level or a campaign level. Goes on to explain again that business logos are not guaranteed to be served, even though they're approved for whatever reason. So that business logo will be this. It's very similar to a favicon that's on the left-hand side here. Now, when you go to add your business logo, you'll be able to upload it here. And there'll be some criteria around the actual size. So make sure you just meet those criteria in order to give every chance for it to be approved. And moving to the site links. Now, this is a pretty important one. Now, this gives you the opportunity to be able to add in extra pages with some text about each page in the description, 2 different description lines there, plus the final URL for each one of those pages, offerings, or something that you're wanting to promote more of. It could be things like an about page, collections page, contact us here, anything that you feel is important. You can add in 4. But you can also add more, so Google can rotate around those site links in order to determine which ones are going to get better click-through rates and results for you. Now, they look like this on mobile. Under desktop, now depending on where you show up in Google, they may only show up as site links like this, but this is a quick example. I've seen them show up like in order of 4 like this on desktop, or they'll show up underneath each other like this. Google's constantly changing the user experience as to how they're being displayed. Again, there's a myriad of other options that you can use here. Under advanced and site links, you can even schedule dates for when you want some extensions to work or not. You might have a Black Friday, Cyber Monday promotion, Valentine's Day, holidays, etc., etc. This is where the asset scheduling can come in handy. And coming back and onto headlines. Now, coming to this headline, this is a new feature by Google. It's still in beta. You can add it to the campaign level here at the moment. I haven't added in more campaigns. Maybe there might be an option in the future to add it to the account level. This headline can be used across all your selected campaigns for now. You can learn more here. You can also schedule those, and it may be something like your brand name that you want to use in all your campaigns for your responsive search ads. And for me, that could be cheap camping gear, for example. And you can pin these headlines as well. You may want it to only show up in position 1 when it does get used. You can leave it unpinned. That's what Google recommends because it may switch it around. But for today, I'm going to save that one because I do want that to be used across the branded campaign. Next up is descriptions. Again, similar to the headlines. It's in beta at the moment. So you can add a description up to 90 characters and you can add it to any campaign currently with the same scheduling options you do with your headlines. Next, callout extensions. Now, callout extensions can be excellent because You can highlight certain features and benefits about your business, your company, and products, which can invoke a click into your ads. For example, you might want to say things like free shipping, available 24/7, unmatched customer service, etc., etc. And you can add these at the account level, campaign level, or ad group level. By adding them to specific callouts to your ad group level, you can get ultra granular about those specific offerings, should you wish. I've seen it to be very powerful to use callout extensions with our past and current clients. And again, you can schedule those out too. Next, on to structured snippets. Now, the best way to use structured snippets and understanding them, think of it like highlighting specific offers within your business. Now, if you select this header type, this drop down, you'll see here there's all the different types of the ways you can create your structured snippets. So let's look at brands. Say you're an e-commerce store that sells shoes. You can state Nike, Adidas, New Balance, and the list goes on. Courses, you might be a university or a private college. You could be offering anything from learning English, TESOL, or the different type of languages that you may be offering within the college. Destinations could be to things, you could be a travel company. You could be offering things from Maldives, Vanuatu, Europe. Under neighborhoods, you may be a trade company. You might be an electrician or a plumber who does emergency repairs. So you can state those different neighborhoods, suburbs, or counties that you might cover. Same with service catalog. By now, you're getting the gist of how you could be using structured snippets. But if you have any more questions, leave a comment in the description below. Okay, next up, call extensions. Call extensions are great because people can actually just call you directly from an ad. They can click the number and call directly through, and it can be tracked in Google as a lead conversion. You can add in your phone number. If you're using a software that can track and record calls like CallRail, for example, this can make call extensions really powerful. Under recording the conversion actions, there's many different options that you've got here. You can use account settings, calls from ads, and you can actually go on to manage the conversions further here as well. You can also increase or decrease bids, depending if a call is more important to you. And you can also schedule these out. If you're a business that only works 9 to 5, you can schedule for receiving calls during that time from your ads. Continuing on, we have lead form extensions. Now, this can be great for improving the user experience, where users don't actually have to leave Google in order to fill out a form to inquire about a service that you may be offering. So you can create the lead form here with different headlines, business name, descriptions, any questions that you can quickly check a box to get the information in the form. You'll see it pop up here on the right. If we select name, whatever options we have there, phone number, email, zip code, they will pop up here on the right-hand side. And you can see what they look like on desktop here as well. You can even add your own qualifying questions, which can help with the lead quality. You can add your privacy URL, a background image, which you can make it a little bit more fancy and or inviting. You can also create a submission message or a thank you for that. You can see a preview what they look like here. A call to action with a drop down of all different types you've got there. And you can also put in a call to action description. And there's a few more options here to work through as well, in terms of where to export your leads, integrations, and using webhooks. And also looks like you can import qualified leads or converted leads, which will give Google more data for their machine learning to better optimize your campaigns towards your goals. This is a very, very powerful ad extension, I must admit. Okay, locations. It comes up with a prompt with the types of locations you want to advertise. It could be your own locations or affiliate locations. Now, in order to use your Google locations as ad extensions, you do need to have your Google business profile linked to your Google Ads account. And you have a few other options here in terms of which locations you use. It may be ones under your own business profile. You may need to request access to another business profile. If they're an associated location, you can also enter in a domain for access. Even has an option here for chain stores. For example, it could be McDonald's, KFC, and there's many different options for that there. And under price locations, you can show prices for products or services here. Under this price asset and ad extension, you can be a rental or hire company of any description, anything from cars, equipment, etc. And you can state here all the information, including the price. You can even break it down to hour, month, per year, per night. Tons of different options here as well. And you're going to add multiple of them should you wish. There's even options to get granular here on your tracking as well. So just cancel that for today. Almost there, we're up to apps. You may have an Android or iOS app, which you can add into your ads. You can add this to the account level, campaign, or ad group. You can go about looking up your app here as well. There are no iOS apps in our account. If you do have an app, you must link them to your Google Ads account in order for them to be downloaded. You can see what they look like here on mobile. In terms of how to install the app, it will take them through to whatever store it is, Android or Apple. You also have a few other options there and how you can track it further as well as schedule it out. And lastly, for this video, promotion extensions. You might have some special sales or offers coming up, so you can select that. You can add this at the account, campaign, and ad group level. You can state an occasion should you wish. There's plenty there to choose from. There's different promotion types, anything from monetary discount or percentage discount or up to discounts. You see here when you change that, it will change from dollars to percentages, the item, final URL, so where you want to send your traffic. You can get granular on the details, so on orders over $100, for example, or you may want to use a coupon code. You can state a code and actually add it in there. So you say, coupon 1, whatever it is for you. And of course, through your promotions, you may have a start and end date. So you can get down to the time and date for start and end. And again, all the other advanced and tracking options for promotion extensions. These definitely come in handy for e-commerce stores, which we use very extensively for our own sites as well as our clients. And to wrap up, viewing all your ad extension assets, you can see them here. You can get granular by selecting each one. You can even add in columns so you can see the results. And that's it for today's video on all things ad extensions. If you want to learn more about what we do here at Launchpresso, please go to our website in the description below. We also have an extensive series on how to set up a Shopify store for Google Ads. You can check that out here. Hope you got value out of this video today. If you have, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.